Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, your number one source for income-oriented investing. And these very, very high yield funds, we're talking north of 40%, things like the Defiance, QQQY, JPY, the Yield Max stuff, Clip. I've been seeing a lot of videos and other videos on them, and people are talking about living off of these super, super high yield funds. And today we're gonna really dig deep into this because I feel there's some misconceptions or there's a little bit of confusion. You got to really change your way you think about this stuff. So is living off things like QQQY, JPY, where you have these really, really high distribution yields, is living off of them actually feasible? Does it make sense? So let's dig deep into this subject right now. We'll go through some examples, and hopefully by the end of the video, you'll understand that living on, you could basically live off any investment, but it's really a matter of how you think about it and the portfolio management, how much portfolio management you're willing to do, right? So I could prove my case right now just by saying the whole FIRE movement or FIRE 4% rule is basically based on the premise that you could safely live off of passive index funds, right? So can you live off JPY, QQQY, these high yield funds? And if so, how do you do it? Let's try to tackle this right now. So let me start off by saying that the inspiration behind this video is really all the questions I keep getting by mostly Canadians, but also Americans on QQQY, JPY, on the yield max stuff, these Clip as well, these really, really high yield, we're talking like 40, 50, 60% yield things, right? So the important thing we need to remember right away, guys, very, very important, is that yield does not equal return or performance, right? Yield does not equal total return, does not equal performance. Just because you're getting 60% yield, for example, or the latest distribution is equal to, percentage-wise 60%, doesn't mean you're getting a 60% return that year or that month for sure, right? So it's very, very important. So when people say living off the dividends, they're pretty much insinuating, I think most people think of that, hear that and say, well, living off dividends, it just means that I'm going to spend all the dividends or I'm going to spend all the distribution, the interest that I'm getting every month, and never touch the capital. That's what it means for most people, but you can't necessarily look at it that way. You can look at it that way because I understand it's very, very convenient to look at that way. It's very easy, right? I'll extract my dividends, I'll live off my dividends, I'll never touch the capital. But are those really, really high yield funds, and we'll stick more with QQQY and JPY as an example, is it feasible to do that kind of strategy with these? Just spend all the dividend, all the distributions, and I'll safely live off these? The answer is no, right? It's not very feasible because if you understood the fund and the distribution policy, you will know that the monthly distributions are going to vary greatly. So it's not very convenient or feasible to do this, right? So if you really want to talk about living off dividends in the definition of I'm just going to live off the interest, all the interest, well, I don't think it's very feasible to live off these high yield funds, but you can do it just like you could live off a QQQ and a SPY, but you're going to need to do more portfolio management, right? So let me explain what I mean here. So first of all, it's important to understand that the risk level between a QQQY, which is the Defiance NASDAQ, versus a JEPQ, the JP Morgan, right, JEPY's NASDAQ brother, is pretty much the same. The risk level is pretty much the same. If anyone tells you, if you hear a YouTuber say that QQQY is much riskier than JEPQ, or that JEPY, the Defiance one, is much, much riskier than a JEPY or a SPY, trust me, they have no idea what they're talking about, okay? Their performance is very, very, very similar, even though JPY and QQQY have such much bigger, we're talking like 3-4 times the dividend rates of a JEPY and JEPQ. Their performance, their risk level, their total return is very, very, very similar. It's the distribution policies that are different, right? Even the underlying, it's the same, right? NASDAQ or the S&P 500. So let's take a quick example. I'll try to tell you what I'm talking about. So JEPQ, the JP Morgan one, is about 12% yield, give or take. Sometimes, it's about 11, 12, 13. It could vary, right? But it's typically in that range of, let's say, 10 to 12% range, whereas a QQQY, let's say it's 60, the latest distribution is 60%. So if you're actually living off of JEPQ, it's very feasible to do that because it's in that magical range of between 10 and 15%. In my opinion, that's the range you want to look for if you really want to live off dividends, meaning you're extracting everything. So JEPQ is about 12%, 1% a month. QQQY is, let's just say the latest distribution is 60%, right? So it's much easier to live off JEPQ because you just take the distribution out and the stock price stays relatively stable. It's not going to go up that much because it's a covered call. It's going to go up obviously if the Nasdaq goes up, but it's a covered call ETF, right? So you're getting most of your return with the income. You're not going to get that much upside. You're giving up upside for that yield. So living off of JEPQ, you could do it. It's very easy. You probably just extract all the income and you should be okay because the distributions are more or less going to be stable. The stock price is going to be stable. You can't really do that with QQQY, extracting everything. But if you want to live off of QQQY, for example, you can do it still. You just need more portfolio management. So if the dividend is 60%, well, you should extract 1/5 of it, which equals to 12%. And reinvest 80% of it. So someone who's holding JEPQ and living off of it extracts everything. Someone who's living off of QQQY, you could do it, but if you're going to do the equivalent of the JEPQ guy, which is very responsible and makes sense, you're in that magical 10 to 15% range, you're going to have to reinvest 4/5 or 80% of the dividend. If the QQQY distribution is 48% for that month, you're going to have to reinvest 75% of the distribution. If it's 36%, you'll have to reinvest 2/3 of it, right? So you could, the magic number is about 12%, in the 10 to 12% range. So another, just like, again, if let's say QQQY's distribution that month is 24%, well, this is even easier math, right? You should reinvest half of it. If you're doing that, you're kind of doing the same thing as the JEPQ guy. Does that make sense? So it's all relative to the value in your account. In the end, guys, it's really about what makes you the most comfortable and how much work you're willing to do. It's all about account and portfolio management, right? So I understand that when most people say living off the dividends, it kind of implies, let me just extract everything. I'm just living off the interest. That's fine. It's very easy. It's very convenient, obviously, but you probably can't really do that with QQQY and JEPY. You can't do that strategy. You're going to have to make some modifications about it. So if you want to do that, you're probably going to be looking more for the 10 to 15% range. You're going to be looking for funds that have relatively consistent income and have a relatively consistent value as well if you're really going to pull out all the income. So things like JEPY, JEPQ would be more ideal. Something like a SPY from NEOS, which is fantastic because you're getting about 1% a month, right? An SVOL, a high. On the Canadian side, we have, there's even a lot more options. There's a lot of options. There's HYLD and HDIV and HDIF and QQCC, QQCL, right? TSX, ESPX from Evolve BMAX. So you could easily do that, and really your account value is or the stock price as well is going to stay relatively stable. So you have to, really dig deep and think about how you think about this stuff. So is living off of QQQY, JPY, CLIP, these yield max, is it feasible? The answer is it depends how you're defining living off of, right? It is feasible, just like it's feasible living off of passive index funds. But you're gonna have to set a target of extraction, right? If you're living off of SPY and QQQ, they barely have dividends. So unless you have $50 million in it, you can't just live comfortably off that 1% or 0.5% dividend of the Nasdaq, right? You're gonna have to pace yourself and extract. And that's the whole premise behind that nonsense 4% rule. You're only gonna extract 4% a year or something like that. So if you're gonna if living off of it means you're going to extract all the income, you're going to want to look for funds that probably are in that 10 to 15% range where you can extract everything and you should be okay. You should have relative income stability. And this is where you got to look at the history of the fund, the distribution history, and the longer the funds go, the more comfortable you should be. Like JEPY and JEPQ, obviously they're pretty stable. They could vary, but it's relatively stable. SPY is extremely stable. SVOL, very stable. High, very stable. But QQQY and JPY, CLIP and TSLY and all of that, they don't have stable distribution rates. They're just different funds. Are not exactly, I wouldn't say they're ideal to just live off of, right? It's all about account management, account value. So you could do it, but you're gonna have to put more work into it. So it's all a matter of mindset. So I just wanna do that video because I see a lot of videos and I see a lot of people like thinking wrongly that 60% yield, 40% yield, all of a sudden you don't need $1 million to retire. You could do it on 300,000. I'll just put it all in QQQY and live off of it. Well, it doesn't really work that way. It's not really feasible because you're kind of just selling off your investment very, very quickly. So if you want to do that, my advice, my opinion, look in the 10 to 15% range of distribution yield if you're going to just extract everything. Make sure you look at the history of the fund and more importantly understand how the fund works, how it's designed, and the risk level between a SPY and a JEPY and a JEPY is very, very similar, if not identical. Same thing for QQQY and JEPQ. So it's not about there's higher risk or lower risk. The risk is the same. It's just how much work you're willing to put in portfolio management. So hopefully this video made sense to you. If you're Canadian, also make sure to watch the other video where I talk about why I don't think it's a good idea to have these high yielding US listed funds in your cash account or your TFSA as well. Very important video. And give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it, and see you next time. Hey, don't go yet. A few reminders before you leave. Did you know that I launched a YouTube loyalty membership program where for only $3 a month, you could become a PII Inner Circle member, where you will gain access to exclusive content, exclusive videos and live streams, as well as other perks and benefits, including a really cool weekly opportunity report. That's right. If you're interested, just click on the little join button next to the subscribe button to see what it's all about. Also, make sure to follow me on Blossom and download Blossom. It's a social investing app, which is really cool. You could share your portfolio, follow other people's portfolios, including my own. My username is Adrian_PII. So download it with the referral link below. Not only is it free, but you could actually earn cash by taking these really small, quick 1-minute courses. Really awesome. It's a no-brainer. Also, make sure to visit our website, passiveincomeinvesting.ca. That's where you could book a one-on-one private coaching session with yours truly, with myself, where you could ask me all the questions you want. All the information and booking information is on the website. Make sure to check out that video on the homepage there to see how to book a one-on-one properly. Also on my website, you could purchase my digital product, which I'm very proud of, the ultimate DIY investing package. This is a reference tool or a companion tool that will help you build your own portfolio. So it has lists of funds, it has sample portfolios, and it covers both the Canadian and US stock markets. And the good news is you'll only ever have to buy it once because it comes with free lifetime updates. And my plan is really to update the version every single year. So make sure to pick it up. Also, I have Questrade and Passive referral links below. So Questrade is the broker that I personally use, and Passive is the broker companion tool or assistant that I use. Really cool program, really cool software. So I have referral links for both of those. Questrade, $50 of free trades. And Passive, I have half off for the elite membership. If you're interested in the elite membership, and even if you want to start out with the free membership and upgrade to the elite afterwards, use my referral code so you could still get that 50% off. And don't forget that the elite membership of Passive is 100% free if you use Questrade. For social media, we have a very successful and big Facebook group, private Facebook group with over 14,000 members, where we all try to help each other out. So make sure to join that group. Information is below. We also have Instagram, where you could follow us, or more personal stuff when it comes to our life here in Panama. And there's LinkedIn as well. So as usual, everyone, how do I leave you? Continue to stay safe, stay healthy, and of course, stay passive. See you next time.